Amazing, everyone. Well, we're really excited. I'm super thrilled to be here with a pioneer in the industry, Paul Woolmington, the CEO of Canvas Worldwide. No, por favor. We're just really excited to hear just your perspective on AI, and specifically, we've heard a lot about AI, so we're going to keep this one fun in speaking with Paul. We're going to talk about how do you stay successful in the world of AI, but also how do we use it on a personal level? So starting off with just raise of hands, who here has 5 different subscriptions to an AI tool? 5. Who here has 4 AI subscriptions? What about 3? Myself included. Paul, how many do you have?
I lost count. It's but some of them are completely redundant. I think initially you kind of overcompensate and then you look at, but I do believe that in the AI age, it will be this interoperability between lots of different LLMs. I think every CEO, Google, Microsoft, is kind of saying it. So I think, but of course we all know, but maybe on a personal level, I'll start on a personal level because, often you end up talking kind of abstract, but I love, on a personal level, I have built completely my own little tool. It's called Bullfighter. So one thing that and I'll be the first to admit, I sometimes fall into jargon. But when I look at other people's decks or, articles, sometimes there's a lot of puffery in there. So I've actually personally created a tool totally driven by AI that's called Bullfighter. And essentially, all my friends, by the way, anyone here, if you want to send me words that you hate that end up in presentations, and if I use any, you can kind of call me out during this discussion. But I populated an agent that will actually analyze any deck, any editorial for puffery. And I've even started analyzing company reports and then actually correlating it with success in the financial marketplace. And CEOs who kind of talk honestly and straightforwardly and give specifics outperform the S&P 500. And I can analyze now even a Canvas deck for puffery and acronyms and things like that. Alicia and I used to work together, so we used to, in every area of expertise, we hide behind acronyms. But it's called Bullfight. But I've used multiple tools to even code it, to actually build it. I thought this is one, I'm going to come up with the idea and get someone else to do it. But I've actually done it all myself. So it's been a learning journey personally to build something that actually can have some utility and use. I have no idea. I'm not looking to become a billionaire with it. I'm not sure Bullfighter's going to make me retire any day soon.
It will.
Okay.
I'm putting it out there.
Okay.
So I know we've talked about sort of even with coding, right? This is something, Bullfight, that you've been able to put into action because of AI.
Yeah.
How do you see the roles of agencies and the skill sets within agency partners changing?
I think we're in a period of utter disintermediation, chaos, and all of the above. And I think Darwin's, you have to adapt, but you've got to adapt not over decades. You've got to adapt pretty quickly. So I have been a senior fellow at Columbia University. We partnered at the Brown School of Journalism, also with Stanford, so had access to all this research. And essentially, it's a statistic. About 80% of what we know, the legacy learning, whether it was what you learned at university, the skill sets that you learn in your profession, will not make you succeed in the future. And that's a scary statistic. So, your Darwin's evolution. So if you're a brand marketeer, you're in this maelstrom of chaos. If you're in an agency, but I think the underpinning of it, I would say, is build a strong culture first, second, third, and last. and then sandwich in between all of the skill sets that you're going to need. But I think that first and foremost, having a strong culture, whether you're a brand, a media company, a technology platform, having a group of people that kind of trust each other, no turf, ego, greed, all those, or often structures are at the heart of not being able to evolve quickly. But I think safety, feeling that you can make a mistake and you're not going to get fired, feeling that you can put it out there, feeling that you can kind of be the first to say, dare to be stupid, I need to ask this question, but also creating an environment where you have restless optimists. You're restless to actually evolve with the changes in technology, but you're optimistic about how we can apply human and AI together. So last thing I'll say is, and I think at the heart of this is obviously a huge investment in technology, but actually I'd love any of you to ask yourselves internally, are you doubling your cultural budget and your training budgets? And I actually think training can be leadership training. So we're on our 10th, actually last week we did our 10th leadership lab. So we're taking the future leaders and the current leaders through a course where we're actually talking about how do you what does a leadership look like in this technology age? So I believe that that is as important as your technology investment. Technology for technology's sake is redundant. And a lot of it is over-engineered. So how do you practically apply it? How do you actually integrate it into your workflows, into your operationalize? So enough about that. But that's certainly something that I'm doubling on, culture underpinning change.
Yeah, no, that's a super interesting perspective, and I'm glad you raised, because we've all talked about the opportunity that AI is creating, but we've also talked about how roles are evolving. How do you see the roles of agencies evolving now that there's more automation? And do you feel like brands are creating different levels of pressures for the agency partners?
Yeah, I think, listen, I think there is a great opportunity for the reinvention of what an agency is. And I'm doubling down that we can automate. So what happened in the agency environment, a little history lesson is we used to sit with CEOs. I worked in agencies where a CEO would call an agency executive and confide on a weekly basis. So we were trusted advisors. There's wonderful books written on it. And what happened over years was agencies became lazy and they actually built their models around execution in each of the disciplines. And of course, what's happening is a lot of the execution is being automated. So I like to think, and I've run consultancies before Canvas, but I believe the future of the agency is stepping up and becoming that trusted advisor again. So of course, what is obvious is that we can automate a lot, but the insights of that automation, working with clients, and clients are in the same situation, as much as clients might be ingesting, they're in chaos at the moment. Brand marketeers are as confused. I would ask the same question as, what does it mean to be a brand marketeer today? I don't know. Maybe they're all going to become growth and they're all going to be run by CFOs rather than brand custodians, if you look at that, that natural progression. But operationalizing technology, maybe I'll just evolve that and I'll just say, we're doubling down on hygiene. So there's obviously a lot of hygiene applications. And what that's going to do is uplift the workforce of the future. So, of course, what I don't want to do is because we're lots of people working on multiple spreadsheets on budget reconciliations and all of this. We can automate all that stuff. But what we've got to do is upgrade it. And so what it's about, that hygiene is going to happen. By the way, that was a part of media. We're saying, oh my God, this AI is going to disintermediate. It's been a part of media for ages, in programmatic, in so many spheres of our digital lives. Our platform partners were built, obviously, on AI technologies. So the other thing I think is we're trying to upgrade into hero applications. How do we solve complex business problems? And I don't want to be even in the marketing business. Let's just solve business problems. And whether that's through marketing, whether that's through a service, whether that's through, some future tense, that's what hero applications are going to be. And then the hubs are obviously all our partnerships. And of course, why you need an agency that is objective in a world of vested interest. Look, if I got paid $1 for everyone who had a data insight that justified their marketing, that justified their manufacturing output. If you go to Google, they're going to say Google's the answer now, what was the question? If you go to NBC, they're going to say NBC was the question now, what was the answer? If you go to any publisher, everyone has a data point that justifies their manufacturing plan. So where's the role of the objective voice in the table? It's the agency, or it's the brand marketeer. But the brand marketeer, by the way, media's a CMO. Media's only one sliver of what they're now expected to do. So agencies need to step up and be the objective truth in a world of vested interests and glue it all together. And bullshit agencies that call themselves performance agencies, we're all in the business of performance. It's the performance mindset. It's not that last couple of clicks. So that was a long-winded answer. Many of you know I'm not short on a word or two or a rant or two at 4:50 on a Texas afternoon. But I think there is a wonderful future. And by the way, I think the world is shifting to the independents. We now have a revered company called WPP that's decimated all its wonderful brands that it stood for decades. Do you know what WPP stands for? Wire and plastic products. That's what this revered holding company that had all these multiple brands. So the shift is moving to the independent sector. So we've been growing humbly, 10-year anniversary, I think it's time for the indie. Anyway, back to you.
Yeah, it is definitely time for the indie. You have done some really good work with Zillow, applying your hygiene hub. Do you mind speaking to what the use case was in a world where we're starting to see AI allowing us to all be creators, right? It allows us to create content. It allows us to move a lot quicker. It's also created a lot of noise. It's made it hard for brands to stand out. Like, can you talk through the use case?
Yeah, I love this because it's not a specific application. So it's wonderful. We won Zillow business. We've been working with them. I think it's our third year. We have a very trusted relationship. Obviously, they're a technology company. They built their business on what I would call a lot of in-house performance media, but we're working across the spectrum of their business. But I'll just give one execution, which actually really lovely coincidence is it's executed through programmatic, but not exclusive to programmatic. So of course, in a digital environment, a lot of people are looking for the cheapest cost per acquisition if you're in a performance mindset. So we actually built algorithms to clean up the internet. Essentially what the hypothesis was that we could build algos that obviously ingested lots of first and third party data, that could obviously understand the customer journey to obviously renting or buying a home, because we have a lot of dreamers. Zillow has 250 million unique users every month, but there's a very small percentage actually transact on the platform, get a mortgage or certainly. So obviously we're moving dreamers into. But one of the hypotheses was that quality in this AI age, we're going to have more crap. There's more wasps at a picnic. So we were just saying, I want to get rid of the wasps, and I just want to go for very high intent, very high quality. So we were scraping the entire internet for high quality engagement sites, and heretically for a media agency, pay a premium to be in that environment. And we blew the metrics off the Richter scale. So quality, in a world of quantity, we need to be having a quality conversation, and we need to have a value conversation, not an arms race to, if I can get Meta down by another 10 cents, I'm going to actually convert more customers. That's a race to the bottom. And the success is that we're rolling this out, and it's a universal product, so we can use it on any client. So we're building applications in an AI age that solve complex problems. A complex problem is quality in a digital environment. We've all known that, I mean, obviously there are at one end of the spectrum nefarious agents, but there's a lot of bad quality. So how do you get high quality engagement? Pay a premium, and by the way, collapse the whole customer journey. You can do brand and performance at the same time, because it was always, bifurcated. Let's go for the cheapest at this end and, and have integration. So I'm loving how we're collapsing brand and performance through uses like AI. And of course, an amazing partnership with Trade Desk, because we were then able to activate these audiences and with this algo in that, and obviously then extending it into other marketplaces as well. So that's just an illustration, I think, of a hero solve a problem, and that was a general problem, and sometimes it can be a very specific problem. We've also built applications for supply chain. Often the information that gets to the media buyer or whatever it is, or the platform, lags where your product availability is. So we built algos that will dynamically understand where product is, so we're advertising the right product to the right geography at the right time in the right quality environment, and that's a hero application. And again, guess what? You get 5, 6, 7-fold improvements in performance.
We've also talked about just the importance of human judgment, and thank you for sharing that perspective.
Thank you.
In terms of human judgment and taste. I'm sure that is all interbedded in brand and performance and making sure that your message resonates, as I heard from your earlier panel. Why do you think that's important? And do you think that's more important now that we're seeing AI really take off?
Well, I think one great human intervention in an AI and technology age is judgment. We're overwhelmed by data points, aren't we? So obviously we have AI tools that can aggregate a lot of these data points. But actually how you even get to that data point, so you want to filter trusted sources that are aggregating this data. So that's a human judgment. I trust this source more than that. And that's actually a joint effort. That's a brand role as well as an agency role. But ultimately, in a world of vested interests, to build on the word of vested interest, we're doubling down on a completely new discipline, which I think could be the transformative discipline of the AI age, and it's the data storyteller. And I've spoken quite a lot about this. So what we're doing is, it's not the Department of Analytics, it's the business leads that understand enough about attribution, understand the techniques, and them aligned with your wonderful head of analytics. And we need analytics leads who are geeks, but also understand communication. So this judgment in a world of vested interest is, how do you Sherpa navigate this customer journey? How do you Sherpa navigate all the different data tools? How do you call out Meta when Meta say it's Meta now? What was the question? How do you balance all of that? So I was lucky enough to have been in a prior life, co-founded a company called Naked Communications. We popularized communication planning because everything communicates. Advertiser subset marketing, marketing subset communications. I think this is going to even be that next iteration, the data storyteller. You have to tell the story. And by the way, when you walk into the C-suite, we need to arm the CMO to go into the C-suite and educate the CFO, COO, CEO that it isn't all about bottom of funnel performance. Building a brand over time is complex. It always was. It's even more complex, but it's even faster. So we need to be able to talk in different tongues. We need to be able to talk CFO language, which is the storytelling. The laziness is that, beware of the company that builds a dashboard that is potentially an arms race to the bottom, that is not considering all of the techniques. And by the way, all of the channels that are in this attribution model beyond, what I would say is we've grown up with dashboards in our digital media environment. So I'm doubling down on this, but it's a very delicate, it's kind of like liberal arts communication skill meets geek. And it's a kind of weird combination, but I think that's what will make you succeed in the future. So talking a little bit about that, I think that's going to be at the heart of what we build now at Canvas and what we've been doubling down on. And it's not a department of analytics anymore. It's infused into everybody who touches the, senior people that touch the client business.
If you could fast forward 5 years,
Yeah.
and this is sort of tied to the race to the bottom and in changing the fact that we're doing like things like last click attribution and doing a better job of doing data storytelling, what do you think the best marketers will be doing differently in order to be successful in the age of AI, if you can fast forward?
I think we're all looking, I think balancing short, medium, and long term, and long term doesn't mean to be over 5 years. I think balancing those techniques, and of course, I have great sympathy for quarterly earnings and performing within that brutal environment of Wall Street, but just, or you're owned by private equity. Private equity owns so many categories now, the kind of pressures that are on CMOs. So I would say, I think it will be a completely different ecosystem. I might bet that in 5 years' time, websites will go away, or why do you need to go to a website? I think we're going to have these immersive technologies. There'll be a lot of collapsing of what we understood to be media and marketing, omni-channel. I mean, Amazon was obviously one of the great retailers, digital retailers in the world. They're an omni-channel media company. I'm buying Thursday Night Football. We've got like the NBA there, but they're collapsing it. This notion of every social platform has obviously commerce built into it. So how do you do brand and commerce, experience, immersive? I see a world of, and maybe heretically, we won't be called advertising agencies. Look, Dave and I grew up in an era of ad agencies. I'm not in the business of advertising. I'm in the business of solving business problems through communications, whatever that. If it means building a service and then supporting that service through some form of marketing, that might be the future. So I see huge industries that will go through cataclysmic change, potentially brand marketeers. I don't know, will they be growth marketeers? Will they, what will that be? And likewise, what will the agencies be? I just see a big, if I could predict it, I'd be building, something that would make a lot of money in 5 years' time. But I see a big collapsing of the, and maybe even the words that we use for how we describe our industries. So that's 5 years. 5 years. We've just seen the last 2 years be unbelievable, in terms of what's happened in our environment. Focusing on another 5 years. Hopefully I'll be sitting on a beach, drinking a pina colada. I was wrong. The only thing I know about predictions, let me tell you, there are people that don't know, me, and there are people that don't know they don't know. That's predictions. So having given you a prediction.
I have a feeling your predictions are all correct, and we're all going to be at the beach drinking piña coladas. So I know we've talked about there's been this over adoption currently in us leveraging AI tools. So going back full circle to what we talked about, a lot of you have like 3 different subscriptions. Some of you have 2 different subscriptions. You're thinking about it right now in infrastructure. What are the companies that you're most excited about in the AI space that you think have longevity?
Any AI tool that thinks I'm really cool. We really like that question. We really, that reinforcement thing. No, I'm joking. But isn't it kind of really corny? Because we all got faked into thinking that we were so smart in the way of using. I don't know. I think, here's a worry I have is everyone's obviously looking for more processing power, more obviously NVIDIA chips to obviously drive. I wonder whether a lot of the LLMs will aggregate to an average. And then what's the differentiator in a world where we're all using these tools, they all kind of will adopt, they all have like a little bit of a nuance. Of course, there are certain tools. I think the more specific the tool in your LLM agent world, the better. And I think there'll be a lot of interoperability between these tools. So at the moment, I think you use a lot of these tools discreetly, but kind of looking at their interoperability in, system architecture and things like that. I was listening to the CMO of Chime, who, obviously he's a technology geek. He works for a technology geek company. So he's going to obviously, it's pretty obvious where he's coming from. But one thing he did say is the CMO is going to be this integrator of a lot of technologies, obviously a lot of them being AI. So, I think that's going to be a really interesting arms race in the future. So I'm not going to bet on any one of them. But yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Anyone else got a smarter question than that? Answer than that?
If I can guarantee that you would be at the beach drinking a piña colada and you had to pick one.
Piña colada.
Piña colada.
Piña. Piña.
And you had to pick one.
Okay. What?
What do you
What about
one AI tool that's going to be here in the future?
No, I can't. I probably, I'm also quite loyal. So definitely ChatGPT was the first of my downloads. So I probably used it the most. And it has, maybe 2.5 years of my history. So obviously that makes it sticky. So, obviously with my others, there's much less, that length of depth. So I think those are things that just my history, being able to go back and iterate off things that you've had, that you've built. But I don't know, I probably would say that I'm closest to ChatGPT, but I use, as I said, I've got 5 different subscriptions and thousands of dollars a month going out. For many of them, hardly using. I use them once every 3 months, something like that.
Well,
but I feel kind of good. I feel cool that I've got 5.
I feel really cool that you have 5. Sort of too.
But I like Claude, you see. Claude is a good name. I like the branding of Claude. I do like and what they stand for, and being principled. That's another topic I could be a bit controversial of. There are some tools that are fiendishly bad, doing bad things with bad owners.
We've talked about the magical moments, and I know you've referenced things like the first time that we drove a Tesla, when you created Canvas. That's a magical moment. Can you think back on one of your favorite brands like Patagonia, and also think forward of what do you think is the next magical moment, whether that's a brand, whether that's an AI tool? What are you most excited about?
Yeah, I'm just hopeful. I think we all forget these magical moments. The first time I used Waze, the first time I did Airbnb, and a lot of magical moments in technology were things that they just were magical and they solved a problem. And suddenly, and I remember sitting in a taxi when I downloaded, and I actually met the Israelis who, before they sold to Google, and understanding what Waze was. And literally so I remember telling a yellow taxi driver, I said, there will be a policeman 2 blocks down, a police car. And he's driving. And then when the police car, how did you know that? It was like this magical moment. So I got his phone and I downloaded Waze and, but Airbnb and Seamless and all these services and, those were kind of magical. And then we take them for granted, don't we? We just take them for granted. And I'm hoping that, I've always been a believer, do rather than say. So do good, but do things that enhance people's lives and not just take the friction out. That's a byproduct of making. So if it's just convenient, that's fine, but it could be magical as well. And then support that. So it's do first and then talk about what you do, rather than just talk. So I had on a panel before, and forgive me, but we did a pitch years ago, and it was a bank, and they launched an ad campaign, the bank that likes to put you first. And so this was the ad campaign. So we were pitching, and I got 50 of the executives to call the 1-800 number and ask the question, how do you put me first? And we recorded every message. So this is the 1-800 number of this bank. No one knew what it meant. people were explaining how they answered the calls. Some other people, and then the pièce de résistance. So we opened the pitch with this edited version of people literally being recorded. The final one was someone saying, that's what they say in the advertising. They stopped the meeting. They were horrified. They excused us. We're like half an hour into a 3-hour pitch. We're excused. They cancel the entire pitch. They pull the advertising down. They hire my company. And then about a year later, once they'd built some goddamn products in financial services, like one of those categories that you don't really trust, that built tools that put people first, they didn't even have. It was just a vacuous advertising. So it's the analogy of the judo move of create the product that puts people first and then advertise it, and then it's a win-win-win-win, as opposed to those, although I do like Fallon's wake up and smell the roses. This whole idea of financial security allows you to smell the roses and be on a beach with a piña colada.
Yes, piña colada.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to close out. I really appreciate this very thoughtful conversation in terms of how agencies and brands are evolving in the age of AI. Now let's have some piña coladas or some margaritas. Thanks for everyone.
I'm totally in for that. Margarita. Oh, by the way, one last thing. In a world of technology, in a world of automation, in a world of ad tech, in a world of Terry Kawaja on every frickin' stage, and I love him, let's have some fun in this industry. I joined this industry because I'm a bit of a polymath, and I loved the diversity. I loved the fun and being in media and communications. We need to bring the fun back to marketing. There's too many people talking, tech's going to eradicate our jobs. No, I think. So on that note, thank you all for bearing with us, and let's have some margaritas.
Thank you.
Yeah.